You are listening to the Run the Rack Outdoors podcast, where we take an all-in, leave no doubt approach to all things adventure hunting. From the big woods to the high country. How about that? Let's learn together as we discuss with our expert guests on what it takes to be successful in the backcountry. I'm your host, Weston Homa. Let's get into it. Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Run the Rack Outdoors podcast. So, I'm going to jump right into it today because I am back home from Duluth, Minnesota, and that is where I ran my marathon, where I had the goal time of 2 hours and 50 minutes. This is something I've been training for seriously for months, and I talked about a lot with my content. It's been a huge goal of mine because, as I said before, something I've been dreaming about is going to the Boston Marathon and running there. So I set the goal of 2 hours and 50 minutes. I ran Grandma's Marathon, and that was this past Saturday. And my final time was 2 hours, 48 minutes, 27 seconds. That's an average of 6 minute, 25 second minute per mile pace for 26.2 miles. So I wanted to share an episode like this just by myself because I think I have an interesting perspective on building endurance. And I want to talk about a lot of the things that I've learned over just the last few years and other things I've just learned from other people that are better than me, some books I've read, podcasts I've listened to. I am a NASM certified personal trainer, so putting together training plans and things like that is something I'm familiar with. I've helped a couple guys out training for their first marathon or half marathon, and I really enjoy helping people out if this is something they're interested in doing. And not just with races, but also just increasing your endurance for hunting, whether you're hunting in the West or packing in tree stands back east for whitetails. It's always great to increase your cardiovascular system, and you're really just promoting the longevity of your life, which is the most important thing. So I wanted to dive into how to build endurance, but then also recap the weekend because, yeah, it was pretty awesome. It was pretty surreal. Something I have already begun to share a little bit in the content from this weekend is just the whole idea of setting a huge goal for yourself in whatever your craft is. Doesn't even have to be running or fitness, could be anything. Saying you're going to do it, show up day in and day out, get your butt kicked a little bit, and then finally work towards that day or that event or that thing and do it and overcome. I mean, it does feel really good. It really does. I try not to ever really rest on my laurels. I think there's extremes to everything. I don't try to do that, but then I also try to make sure that it's okay to celebrate your win. But then I know the greater dreams that I have and goals require me to continue to move forward with this. And I also just love everything about what I'm doing. So just going to be happy that I hit my goal and then just move on to my next one. So anyway, this time of 2 hours, 48 minutes should be more than enough to get me into Boston for 2026. And I'm just so stoked about that. They've actually dropped the Boston qualifying time several minutes or about 5 minutes every couple years. It seems like the duration of when they push it in the extra 5 minutes is getting shorter and shorter. So it's just like anything. It's just like getting a Western hunting tag. Things are just getting harder and harder and harder because things just get more popular. People are getting better. Word of mouth about, the thing gets out more. But I looked at it as, because I just missed it last year, and I just flipped my whole mindset of, I just need to run faster. That's all there is to it. And now I can say that this is my best time. Yeah, this should take me to Boston next year. Anyway, a little bit more about the weekend. So I flew out to Minneapolis on Friday. I went with a couple buddies from my running club, but we were all kind of on our own schedule. So I flew out there by myself. I left my house. I woke up at 3 in the morning on Friday and then got to the airport, flew out there, and then I had to drive a couple hours north to Duluth. And it's this like really awesome, felt like bigger than a town, almost like a small city, but right on Lake Superior with that small town feel. And it's just a really awesome area if people are looking to travel for a race or just a lake weekend or whatever. I don't know. Really cool. This Grandma's Marathon is the 10th biggest marathon in the United States. So it's really cool because you get that big marathon feel, but you don't have to qualify for it. Anybody can just sign up and run it. So did all that, got there, and common thing you do before a big race or something is a quick little shakeout run. So this week prior, I was really resting my legs a lot. I did a couple easy runs, like 4 or 5 miles here and there. But the 2 mile shakeout run is kind of like a fun little, okay, how do you feel? Get everything loose. And I knew right there that I was going to have an awesome day the next day. I mean, there's still that you never know what's going to happen, but my legs and I just felt so fueled. Everything felt great. There's more to it with fueling and nutrition. And these are things I've learned just over the years getting ready for a race. You want to start implementing carbohydrates later in the week, closer to the race, always topping off with salt and things like that. I can get into that a little bit, but just for this purpose, yeah, I feel like I really nailed those things and I got those really dialed in now. So that's the thing too with these races. I mean, I love connecting with people and getting involved with other like-minded people and things like this. But when I'm getting ready for these races, I take them extremely seriously. I found that the more serious I take things, the more I treat myself and my body like an athlete would, like a professional athlete, and I hold that standard, even though I'm not making a nickel off any of this or anything. But the more I do that, the further I progress and the quicker I progress. And I care that much about it. So I take these things very seriously. And then when I woke up on race morning, I knew I was ready and I was locked in. And I honestly feel like I'm going to war because these marathons, I will say, so I've run ultra marathons that are clearly, obviously longer than 26.2 miles. And sometimes I'm talking to people and they might say like, oh, well, you're just running a marathon. Like you've ran further than that before. But there's something about these marathons. Like, yes, they might be shorter than a ultra, like a 50K, 50 miler. But these marathons, you are redlining as hard as you can. It's basically a sprint for multiple hours. Now, everybody has their own goals and their skill set, but that's kind of what you work to. And it can be brutal. And this one was. It was no different than any other one I've ran. So you wake up that morning and it's exciting, but there's something maybe almost primal that's like, you know you're about to endure a lot of discomfort and a lot of pain, but you're going to do it anyway, and you've trained for it. So it's just such an awesome thing to kind of put on the calendar to test yourself and go through the whole mindset of it. Like I say, I love it, and I do, but like in those moments, it's definitely an experience. So got there at the starting line. I think there was like 10,000 people total for the full marathon, which is crazy. So ton of people were right on the lake. And this whole time, this 2 hours, 50 minutes was the goal. And I knew that. And the horn went off and we took off. And I can't help but just come out a little hard. And I felt like that first 10 miles, things felt really good, really effortless. And that's good. That's how you want to be in a marathon. You want to actually be telling yourself to hold back, hold back. And I still felt like I was probably pushing more than I needed to. But what really makes or breaks you is the last 10K, the last 6 miles, maybe 6 to 8 miles. Because that's the point of the race where you really find out how bad you want it. And I'm telling you right now, it hurt really bad. Especially how this race laid out, because a lot of it was downhill slightly. And there was obviously little rises, but overall there was like a 100-foot which isn't that much, but 100-foot delta elevation change downhill, which is nice to have, but it just felt like that the whole time. And I got to about mile 20, maybe slightly before that, 18, 19, and things just started to hurt. And I mean bad. Like, I felt like hamstrings were about to go, calves were about to go. What I do is like I don't set a solid number. I try to go off feel, but maybe every 3 to 5 miles, I have a gel. And the whole point of these gels are just quick, easy, fast carbohydrates. And they're almost like a texture of like an applesauce. And that's the whole point. It's something that's going to go down. It's not like you're taking a bite of something like a carb that's like really dense, like a bunch of like bread or something, like, which I guess that's not too bad, but like it's not like you're eating a big bowl of pasta or something that's going to be hard on the stomach. Like, you're running, so all that blood is in your legs, and you just want something to get in your system, keep fueling yourself, and be easily digestible. So I do that, and then probably had 1 or 2 gels left then, and then luckily I picked up some salt pills, and I'll talk more about the significance of salt as we go here. I did take one of those at mile 22, and I felt like that saved me because my muscles, my legs, my calves especially, for some reason, were just on fire. And at this point, it's like, I don't know, 10 or 11 o'clock, whatever it was. Sun was coming out. It got hot. And that just sucking a lot more of the electrolytes out of you and everything. So you got to stay on top of your salt and everything. And actually, I saw a ton of people at mile 20, 22, and I was more or less towards the front percentile of the race, and there was still a ton of people I saw. I couldn't believe it. Like, these are experienced runners, and they were cramping up, and they were stopped at mile 20, 21, 22, and I couldn't believe it. So it was definitely not an easy day by any means, especially to that point too, because the race was a point 26 miles away, straight to another point, and you're riding the lake. So there wasn't a lot of twists and turns until you got into town the last few miles out. And it just turned into like, I felt like we were twisting and turning and going up, down, left, right. And it was just the biggest grind. But what's so awesome about these races too is the people that come out and support. And it seemed like all of northern Minnesota shut down for this weekend because this is their big thing. This is, like I said, one of the biggest marathons in the United States. It's so fun, and everybody just seems to come around this weekend. So the town was just lit up, and I have a ton of this filmed, by the way, and I'll be putting a whole race documentary video film style on my YouTube channel going through more of the race and stuff. But I just wanted to give like a quick 10, 15-minute blurb here of how everything went. But I was grinding at this point, but I fed off the energy of the crowd. There were so many people, and it was just awesome. So those last few miles was a grind. Luckily, I just knew in the back of my mind I had time banked, and I really just had to keep the right mindset. Like, I just could not give myself permission to say, like, all right, you're good. The rest, like, just maybe not chalk up the rest, but just coast, dial it back. You got plenty of time. No, the whole time you're playing these mind games of like, okay, I'm at this mile at this time, so divide that by this. Like, what's my minute per mile? Like, okay, how much do I have left? Like, what if I push it to this pace, give myself a break? Can I still make it? Blah, blah, blah. And you're playing all these mind games. And that almost like stressed me out more. And I just try to stay very stoic and say, like, the closer you have to a strong mind, the closer you are to strength. So I just had to keep breaking it down to every step, every whatever. I'd pick something, run to it, not think about anything till I got there. And I just couldn't do it. I had to be mindful and just on it, gassing it till the very end. And it was just an awesome feeling coming around this last bend, a couple 100 meters left, and there was 2 other guys right ahead of me. And I just have this competitive thing where, like, I try to at least pass one person by the end, and I passed both these guys right at the end. I was flooring it at the very end here. They provide like videos of your finish, and I'll be posting those and stuff. And I floored it with everything I had, and I finished, and I looked up and I saw that clock in the 2:48s, and it it feels great. It really does. And this is no different than we as hunters finally getting a clean arrow in on that bull of a lifetime, or that buck you've been chasing, or anything like that. It's just when it all comes together, you have this like tangible external motivational thing that's been pushing you for a long time, that's kept you coming back for more when you've gone through failures in the craft, in the training, for the whatever, and you achieve, and you go through a lot of pain and discomfort. So that's where we grow. And I speak so passionately about these things because this is what I love to do. It's really just felt like it's built up my mental, and I've done it with different experiences with hunting, going on harder hunts, pushing myself in the mountains, even back east here, hunting big public land for whitetails, just constantly putting these challenges in front of myself, understanding that I'm not going to seek failure, but failure is sometimes part of the game. So you take it, you learn from it, you keep going, and then just that overcoming is just, it just feels really great. Like I will say, like I have a vision board, and it sounds very corny, and I probably would have made fun of the kid that had one when I was in high school. But a few years ago, I was just not, happy with my life. I didn't feel like I had a lot of good direction, and I spent like days really like in, meditating, like where do I want my life, what do I want my life to look like in the future, 10 years, 20 years, all these things. And that's when I kind of had started running, and I somewhat had a belief at that time that, maybe I could do a marathon. So I put up some pictures, and one of the things was the Boston Marathon. I thought it would take me 10 years to get there, or 15, I don't know. But probably about 3 or 4 years later, maybe 4 years at this point since I did that, I'm putting myself in a spot to be there. So I don't know. I am a believer in the law of attraction, but I'm also a believer in you need to work your ass off every day. So I think there's I don't want to say balance, but I think it's important to marry the two and take both seriously, because that's just part of the vision I have. And I think it's real stuff, because I can now come out like and say like, I've obtained the thing through some of these mindfulness practices, through some discipline, and I'm not perfect. I screw things up still all the time, but I just keep learning and growing, trying to get better every day, and keep focus on the things that I want. And it's done wonders for me. Take it or leave it, but I ended with that. So anyway, that was the race. It was amazing. My friends, they did well too, and it was awesome to just spend all the time up there. And it was great. Duluth's such an awesome town. So met some cool people too. Just really great community. Like people that run endurance or just always have a positive attitude and stuff. So just great stuff. The only screw up of like, not screw up, but the only annoying thing of the weekend was when I got to the airport on Sunday, I was supposed to leave at a decent time. My flight got canceled, and then I didn't get out of there till like late at night. I flew back in. I didn't get back to Pittsburgh till like 2. I got home at like 3 a.m. And yeah, I'm on a couple hours of sleep. And then even Saturday night after the race, I didn't sleep that well. Usually these big endurance events, like I don't sleep that well the first night. So like, I don't know, 6 hours of sleep here is what you're seeing and listening to in the past 2 days, and with a marathon on top of that. So whatever, I'm sure I'm going to crash here at some point. Anyway, that was the race weekend, and it was great. I want to now get into kind of my journey as a runner, and here's why I think I can be of value to the listener, because I am not somebody that grew up doing this. I am not a natural runner. I did not grow up running track. I did not run cross country. I did 1 winter of indoor track freshman year of high school. I did like one scrimmage like meet of indoor, like it didn't even count. I almost passed out after running like a 2-minute 40-second 800, and I remember I had like bronchitis or something. Probably just making excuses and everything too, and I didn't even carry out the rest of the season. Yeah, so trust me, nothing special. I played soccer and like baseball in high school. I was a pretty average athlete. And I got even worse shape in college. I would just lift weights and go and drink all the time. Coming out of college, I still did the same stuff. So I'm 28 years old now. I would say I started running when I was 24, and I still wasn't even that consistent. It was just a couple days a week here and there. What I really wanted to do was, I see the people that hunt the West, and that's when I started going out West. And a lot of these guys are like these hunter athletes, like, the campaigns and the elk shapes and stuff like that. And like running was something that I thought like, I'd better start doing. I want to get in shape. All this to say, I just told you a story about how I'm, probably going to Boston next year. And I guess I'm looked at as this runner now. I was horrible. And this is only 4 years ago. So I remember I was living away from home, and I would do this. My gym, I was living like in this city, basically, and my gym was a half mile away, and that was like my run, like twice a week, running a half mile to the gym. I'd lift, and then I'd run home. Horrible. I was dying. I remember like that's when somebody told me about David Goggins at the time, and like I would have to put him in just for like the 5 minutes it would take me to get home or to the gym, like put him in my earbuds, like screaming at me. I was in such bad shape, but that's where I started. You have to start somewhere. That was my level 0. And everybody has their own level 0. Some it's worse than others, but you all start somewhere. I was also probably about 20 pounds heavier than I am right now. And I wasn't much stronger, if you know what I mean. I was chunky. So I started there. And I remember at the time just starting to like look more into like online blogs and YouTube videos about like, running. I didn't know anything. I think I was running in like gym shoes that I had in high school, and probably horrible for the feet and the knees and the shins. I'll get into shoes here in a second too. But I just want to paint this picture of like if you have not run before, and maybe you think like running a 5K or 10K or half marathon or even a full marathon one day or an ultra is cool. And like a little bit of you like always is going to want to do that. You have to start. And I'm giving you permission to start and be okay with sucking, because you're going to suck. And that's how I've looked at it. Like a lot of these skills now in life is like people always just want to get good, or like they're so quick to say somebody's a natural. But really building a skill, I can attest to this from like endurance. It's not like, don't even worry about getting good. Like you're going to suck. And I like this frame that Alex Hormozy, he's a guy, just like a talking head on social media. When you start, just think about, you just suck less every day. Don't even worry about like getting good. You're just going to suck. And you're going to suck a little less. And you're going to suck a little less. And over a long enough time, you're going to suck less so much that somebody's going to say, oh, you're pretty good. So if you know you need to get in better shape, you have a hard time even just hiking around, and you want to go hunt in the mountains one day, or you want to just start being better just with your family, playing with your kids, anything like that, building up your cardiovascular system. This is all, again, promoting longevity of your life. Be okay with starting from scratch, starting from zero, because I'm telling you, that's what I love about endurance. What you put into it, you will get out of it. And when you start to fall in love with the progress and you see it, that's what keeps you coming back for more, and then things just snowball. So that's kind of where I started. It's not good. And I was not by any means a natural. But I would do those half-mile runs probably about twice a week. And then I would look into, this is when I started looking into like blogs and stuff. And everybody usually has like their long run. And I also get into like the different type of days when like you're kind of like in a little bit of a training plan, even if it's just a 10K, like we'll just keep it simple. So once a week, you're going to want a run that's like a little longer than you typically would. So my long run when I started was this 3-mile loop on trail around this office park where I used to work. Again, I remember being terrified and thinking 3 miles was just absolutely absurd. But you do it. So that was kind of like where I started. A couple days a week, half mile. Well, I guess those were a mile each time because I go there, lift, and then run back. And then a 3-mile long run on Saturday or Sunday. Over time, and then I still wasn't like consistent through the winter or anything like that. I am now, but this is just kind of where I say, okay, this is where I started. Over time, those distances over weeks, months started to increase. And then I remember, truthfully, it was a girl that I used to go to high school with, and I saw she ran a half marathon, and it was totally ego driven. And I said, if she can do that, I can do that. That was my big motivator when I started. So I signed up for half marathon. And this must have been, so I said 4. This must have been 5 because it was right as like COVID was about to hit because that was 2020. Yeah. So it must have been 5 years. Excuse me. So I signed up for this half marathon, but then immediately COVID hit and canceled everything. But when I signed up for that race, I remember losing my mind at work. And my buddy said, dude, just walk it if you can't keep running. Like, you're not going to die. So I was just like everybody else. I wasn't good. The thought of 13 miles or even 10 miles scared the hell out of me. But it's just this slow build to these distances. So COVID canceled that, bummed me out. But I kept that promise to myself. I think this is a huge nugget here. I said, still on that day in May, I believe it was, I'm running 13 miles. And everything was closed. This was like when COVID first hit and people really didn't know what it was. So that's kind of all I really did because gyms were closed too. I remember trying to do like at home, like lifting workouts with like random stuff. But I think at that time, maybe I was running 3-4 days a week. And then these runs started to become more like 2, 3, 4 miles at a time during the week. And then these long runs I'd push to like 6 or 7 and then slowly 8. And then sure enough, that day in May, I ran 13.1 miles. And I will never forget that day. That was probably one of my most proud days I've had, even compared to this past Saturday, because it was something, it was the first real, I never thought I could get to this point. Never thought I could do this, and I did it. So that's what a lot of this whole growth is. That's why I'm a big fan of just adventure, because that's what it is. It's a huge step to the unknown, facing your fears, overcoming these things that you never thought you could do. And that's why I love backcountry mountain hunting and all these other adventures, because that's, more so the definition of an adventure and everything, but you're always climbing the mountain, so to speak. And that's what this 13 miles was at the time. This huge mountain I never thought I could climb. This huge adventure. And I did it. So knowing that, then it really sparked my curiosity. So I then just kept at it, and I'll stop talking about myself here, but I think you get the point. I continued to show up. I kept running. I still probably had another winter or two where I probably would totally backed off. Probably didn't run much during the fall either with hunting because it just wasn't really of highest value to me at the time. But more or less stayed consistent. So 2022, at that point, races came back and I signed up for just screw it. My first race was going to be a marathon, and I ran the Pittsburgh Marathon, and I ran it in 3 hours and 37 minutes. And just being under 4 hours really excited me. And I really thought okay, I think I have something here. But again, it didn't stem from some natural skill. It was just from, I had been pretty consistent now for a while. And I didn't really have an opportunity to prove it in any races with, COVID having everything shut down. So that was my first race then. And then I think I did do a trail race that wasn't technically an ultra, 25K. I ran that. It was a smaller race in West Virginia, and I got 3rd place overall. And then that was in the summer. And then now I'm just fast forwarding. But there's so much work in between all these milestones, so many miles, and that's just the key. It's the training. It's the unseen work. But then progressed into 2023. I ran Pittsburgh again. Ran that in 3 hours, 14 minutes. And then I ran another marathon in July. I ran that in 3 hours and 1 minute. So I just missed 3 hours was the Boston qualifying time at the time, and I just missed it. I remember being so upset. But I was still shocked that I ran that fast because I was still a little bit faster than my goal at the time. I also ran my first ultra that year, a 36 miler, the Rachel Carson Trail Challenge. It's more like an endurance event. A lot of people hike it, but a good bit of people run it. I decided to run it. And that's a small local race. It doesn't bring in like a ton of big name trail runners or anything, but I actually did win that race. I got first place. I'm hesitant to call it a race. I was the first finisher. So then I just really started rolling into it. So I think that's what's given me a ton of activation energy to push faster and more. What's another big ultra I can do, another faster goal time I can hit for a marathon, because this unseen work, showing up, being consistent, and then having this like event to be like, okay, this is where I'm at, this is my time, this is where I placed, doing those things, it just drove me to go push more. So then that goes to 2024. I ran another marathon. I got 2 hours, 56 minutes, qualified for Boston, but I just missed the cutoff time, which means basically they take all the people that qualify for Boston in a given year. At the end of the year, then they have to cut it off at a certain number. And if you are on the slower end of that number where they have to cut it, they say, okay, you qualify, but you're not going. So I didn't make the cutoff, and that really bothered me. But it was just a whole mindset shift, and I remember posting about it at the time where I just said, like, I just got to run faster. So anyway, and then I ran a couple other ultras. I did a 70-mile ultra last year. Did another 55K. And then I had other races lined up this winter, but actually what happened was I broke my ankle. So that was a huge thing to work through this winter. But I had enough time to train and come back and hit this goal time here. But that posted me up. But anyway, then I have this 100-mile ultra marathon coming up. So this will be my first 100. So I just rambled for a good 5, 6, 7 minutes, whatever that was. And that's kind of been my journey as a runner to this point. All stemming from 5 years ago. Again, a half mile was hard for me. 3 miles really scared me. Stuck with that for a few weeks, months. Somehow my ego drove me to sign up for a half marathon, and I was scared to death. That's where I was not really that long ago, not coming from a running family or running background or anything like that. So wanted to paint that picture to just show that, like, it's okay if you aren't, if you're sitting there saying like, oh, I'm just not a runner, I'm just not, well, that's what I said. So these things are skills and we can build on them. And that's what I want to get into now, because I've been going on long enough. So here's some practical ways to build endurance from my experience, learning from others, reading books, listening to podcasts, putting into practice, finding things that have worked for me, other things maybe not so much, and go from there. Because I love helping people out. I've had a few more people message me about, hey, I'm doing my first 10K, I'm doing my first half marathon, and they want to pick my brain. Or I've even put training plans together for people. I don't charge anything. Like, I'm not even trying to do that. I just love helping people because this is what I'm obviously passionate about. So I do want to get into that. So I do have some notes here. Okay. So here's where we'll start. And I've kind of painted this picture already. Start small. Depending on what your goal is or where you're at in your endurance fitness journey, it's going to look different for everybody, but just start small. It might be that half mile. That's how mine was. Or it might be a couple mile run. Find a spot that you just enjoy going to. Yes, I even still have days where like it just sucks. But again, that keeping the promise I made to myself when I said I was going to go run today, didn't feel like it, went and did it anyway. That's what's really helped me progress. So just always keep that in the back of your mind. But I would say let's start small, twice a week. Put the running shoes on, go somewhere, if maybe just your driveway, maybe it's down the street, just somewhere where it's just a spot that you can consistently go back to and that you enjoy. And what I want to talk about now is like kind of the different days of the week. So if you start getting a little bit into a habit with that, I would then start breaking out my week like so. And I got to put some sort of goal here just to paint this example to make things easier. So you can go beyond this or go less than this. Everything's kind of looks the same, whether it's a 10K, half marathon, ultra. You just expand volume, basically. And then when you start getting to a certain point, little nuances are different. But here's the general nutshell. 3 different days, 3 different training days. Training day type number 1, easy run. So you might have heard this called like zone 2, heart rate. Don't even need to get into different zones. So an easy run is just you putting your headphones on and you're going out, you're going at a jogging pace, a pace that you can basically like still hold a conversation. You're right on the cusp of like, if you were talking to somebody, if you go any faster, you're going to start like huffing and puffing. It's going to be harder to talk. So you're going to go right like below that. That's your easy run. And what's popular with zone 2, that's why it's talked about so much, is it's like a really good bang for your buck. Because this is a way where you're not abusing your body, your knees, you're not destroying yourself, but you are still building your endurance. And people will do it like this on the bike or, just like a backpack hike. That's this zone 2. So don't even need to go further than that. That's your easy run day. It's just easy, light. We're not killing ourselves. It's like these are just those like easy deposits you can make where it's like you still are getting some gain in building your endurance. So that's the day type 1. Type 2 day. And I wouldn't even start utilizing these until maybe you have a more clear picture on what your goals are. If it truly is a half marathon, I wouldn't say you really need these just to finish a 10K or a 5K. If I would say mix in these days if like you have a goal time for maybe a half marathon or maybe a 10K. But if you're actually like time conscious with your goal, it's going to be an interval speed workout day. So this is just going to be a day where you're increasing your heart rate and you're going to get a good sweat. So it's not anything, it's not rocket science. So what this might look like, simply put, and you can change this duration interval however you want. The whole point is like to get your heart rate spiked up high for a short period of time and let it come back down. Spike it up again and then let it come back down. And you're going to do this 3, 4, 5 times. And here's what it might look like. Say you want to go run, and don't even check the math here, 4 miles. Start running a half mile at your easy run pace. Again, that might be a 9-minute mile. That might be a 10-minute mile, like literally easy. Warm up. And then that next quarter mile, and if you have a watch, you can look at that. If you don't, just eyeball it. Doesn't matter. Or you can, if you have just a regular watch that doesn't have like a Garmin, like with distances, just go for like 30 seconds or a minute or whatever. Run hard. I don't mean like a sprint like somebody's chasing you with a knife, but like you're going to run hard. This is spiking your heart rate. This is pushing your threshold. And then say you're going to do that for, again, I need to put numbers to things. So it's a half mile easy, quarter mile hard, quarter mile easy. Easier than the easy run. This is a really light jog or even a walk. Again, get the heart rate back down. So the one interval would be a quarter mile hard, quarter mile easy. If you want to go for time, do 30 seconds hard, 30 seconds easy. Or a minute hard or minute easy. Or 2 minutes hard, 2 minutes easy. I don't know, whatever. But that's the example I'll use here. Quarter mile hard, quarter mile easy. Repeat 3 times, 4 times. Just start somewhere. Then that's where you'll know where you can build on it and go from there. So that first time doing these interval speed days might be, again, just to hit it home. Half mile, easy run, warm up. Then we're going to look down at our watch and be like, okay, for the next half mile here or the next 2 minutes here, I'm going to run hard. I'm going to go 2 minutes or half mile at a light jog. Your heart rate's going to come back down and you don't have to have a heart rate monitor. I've never worn a heart rate monitor. I don't even reference it like on my watch. I've never had one on my chest. If you do that and it works for you, that's great. I'm telling you, I don't need it. I don't even really pay too much attention to it. I more or less go off feel, and this is a workout where you'll go off your feel. So do those intervals 3-4 times, and then half-mile cool down. So you go back to your easy run for a half mile or 2 minutes or 3 minutes, whatever. So just draw that up. Make sure you get 3-4 working intervals of that in. And I would hit that. I actually do these I still do these. So this is something I do still, always. And I do them once a week, and I rarely do them more than once a week because this is like where you're really pushing that threshold. And this is where you're going to help increase just your pace. So once a week on that. And then the last type day is your long runs. So again, using the example of you're running a half marathon, I'd say maybe that first long run day, just really depends where you're at. Might be 4 miles, and that's your long run day. I do these on Sunday mornings. I try to get them up. I get up early, get them done before I have to go do whatever I need to do, the family stuff, like whatever. If your schedule is easier where it's Saturday mornings, do that. Or you work swing shift and like Monday morning makes sense, then do that. Or evenings. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But once a week, do your long run. Again, this is a once a week. So I treat these days like a race. I get up, I get excited. I try to have a good breakfast filled with carbs, and that's what I'll dip into next year, like about fuel. I like, banana and some honey, or maybe just some oatmeal and cut up a little apple or just something like that. So it's good, clean carbs and maybe a cup of coffee, a little bit of caffeine. And this is what you'll carry out even on your race day. So try some things that make you feel good. If something doesn't make you feel good, like on your run, like you eat something and then on this long run, a couple miles in, you start feeling a little nauseous, try something different. But your long run day, once a week, I've been doing this since I started running 5 years ago, and I think these are where you really build. And as far as pace, depends on where I'm at. If I'm in my training, a big training block, like I might push race pace. If I'm not, I'm still just getting it in. I try to push it a little faster than my easy runs. But this is where we're just eating miles, getting a good pace, simulate race day the best you can. So again, in summary, it's easy run is type 1, type 2, interval, speed workout, and then type 3 is your long run. Those 3 types of days are how you can build your endurance. Mix those in a given week. If you're just starting out and I don't have any sort of base or anything, I wouldn't even worry about the intervals. Maybe just start with easy runs and then once a week go out for a little bit of a longer run. And then when you have like a race on the docket or starting to build up your endurance a little bit, then start throwing in the type 2, the speed interval workout once a week. Okay, so fueling, I just talked about carbohydrates. There is so much crap on the internet about how carbs are killing us. I can't disagree more. I don't mean to say that. So what I mean is people, it's excess, it's volume, it's scale. Usually the poison in things is in the dosage. It's not necessarily the thing. So it's the quantity. So usually what a lot of people do, they're not endurance runners or they don't exercise at all. And they overindulge in carbs and they're way in a caloric surplus every day consistently. And carbs are the quote enemy because they are good. They spike the sugars in your body and they make you want to eat more. And a lot of processed food has carbs, and that also has a bunch of stuff that just makes you want to keep coming back and eating more of it. So people are so quick to say carbs are the enemy, but I'd argue that maybe you just need to move more and eat less. Anyway, I digress on that. Good, clean, healthy, whole foods. That's what I always recommend. Whole foods meaning single ingredient. So a banana. What's in a banana? Banana. One ingredient. So natural foods. It's, not like a Pop-Tart where you look on the back and it's like 50 different things. So that's what I recommend as a diet always, in a good balance of fats, carbs, protein for all things. But getting ready for a run, and this is like any type of run. What I try to do is I don't hit this perfectly, but like usually I'm running around like after work or something. Just be mindful of like, okay, maybe I'll get out by like 5 o'clock to start running. Maybe about 3:30 or 4 o'clock, I try to have some sort of a serving of a carb. So I do have a sweet tooth, so I like fruit. I usually have an apple or a banana, or like I said, oatmeal is a good option. I'm not against bread, especially sourdough is good for you. So these are all just good, clean carbs. Try to get something in about an hour to 90 minutes before you run. especially the long run, because you're going to be dipping into these carbs, which turn into what's called glucose that fuel the muscles, but we won't even have to go that far with it. Carbs are a fuel. Think energy now. That's carbs. So when you want to go out for a run, that's what you're going to pull from. When you eat all these carbs and then you don't go running and you don't move your body, that's when it turns into fat, when you're in a surplus of it. But anyway, carbs are good. So that's what I like to do before a run. And then after a run, especially the long runs, that's when I have a bigger meal. That's carbs. That's a lot of protein. Protein recovers the muscles and helps build them back, that tissue back up. And then fats too, good healthy fats, avocados, nuts, fats, on your meats and all that stuff. That's all great stuff too. So I just have like a balanced, bigger meal after a long run or really any run at that point. That's usually when I like to have dinner or something. So that's like literally in a nutshell all you need to know for fueling to run. But I will also touch on salt real quick. So when you are just starting out, I wouldn't even be mindful. I wasn't mindful of it, but I did get to a certain point where I was feeling pretty lethargic on runs and after runs, and then even in the when I'd wake up in the morning, because I was starting to get an increase in my miles. I still feel like this now, and I need to be more conscious of my electrolyte intake. So salt is an electrolyte. So is potassium, and then magnesium and chloride. Yes, I might not have to audit myself, but that's like the four. But the big thing is salt. So I like to make sure, especially on the long run days, even when you're kind of starting out, be mindful of getting good electrolytes. I usually have a tub of electrolytes just sitting around when I'm in a big training block. I'm almost like every day drinking an electrolyte mix. But even when I'm not running a lot, and then even if you're just running a couple days a week, again, I'm talking like just a few miles here and there, and your long runs even 3, 4, 5 miles, that's work. That's good. Do not think I'm saying just 3, 4, 5 miles. That is an effort. So we want to make sure we are supplementing back with salt and a whole electrolyte profile. Also too, when you're eating healthy foods, whole natural foods, you have to think too, there's not a lot of salt naturally in things. There's a lot of salt in processed foods. So when we're eating a lot of those, that's when they said for a long time, that's what was, leading to a lot of heart disease and stuff, was all this salt. But it was the overeating of processed foods. And yes, that's when you're going to have a lot of salt in those foods. But when you're on a clean diet of whole foods, you're not actually getting a lot of salt. So if you're very active, I actually keep pink Himalayan salt, a little jar of it on my counter, and I'm occasionally adding that to foods, and then also seasoning with salts and stuff like that. But especially too, so if you're eating healthy and you're running, I recommend having some electrolytes on hand. Definitely taking at least one drink, having one serving of them on your long run days. So as far as brands, I don't know. I've literally will pick up a box of Liquid IV packets when I need packets, when I'm going traveling. Like for this race, it was easier to have packets on me in that whole weekend. But I'll usually just buy a tub, and I'm a fan of BPN, a lot of the content they put out and everything. So it's if I'm gonna spend money somewhere, I'd rather give them money. Just be mindful of how much salt is in your electrolyte supplement that you're looking to get. I don't understand some of these brands that are selling you electrolytes and they only have 100 milligrams of sodium. Sodium is, when I'm saying sodium, I'm talking about salt. 100 milligrams of sodium is literally nothing. I don't know the intent of that. And that's you won't even really feel it. When you have a good, healthy dose of electrolytes before or after a workout, you'll feel it and you'll feel good. And you'll feel like you have a little bit more mental clarity, and you'll feel back in your muscles, and your muscles maybe are starting to ache, and you'll feel it. I recommend looking for something that a minimum says 400 milligrams of sodium. Anything really below that, I don't really even feel, and I don't think you're really making a dent at that point, when you're spending the money for it. So if you're going to, when you're spending the money, make sure that it has at least 400 milligrams. Liquid IV has about 500 milligrams. That BPN brand I talked about has 500 milligrams in their little scoop in their tubs. Again, this is where I'm talking for endurance, building endurance. I'm not talking about anything else. Maybe these other brands that sell you electrolyte packets with 100 milligrams of salt have They know something that I don't know, or they're catering to people that aren't really exerting big endurance-based efforts. I'll leave it there. That's something I never really understood. Another good brand, I mean, Element. Element has 1,000 milligrams of sodium in their serving. So I've had those before. Like that's not too much, not at all. But whatever you find, that's what I recommend. I don't work with any brands, so this is just my unbiased thing, and this is truly what I do. So I'm just putting it all out there. And again, if somebody has just something to say about like the carbs things, like, whoa, I really like to eat, no carbs, like carbs make me feel whatever. I'm carnivore. I follow so and so influencer who's carnivore, and like, oh, they say all these things about it. Okay, is that guy running? Like I could see, I actually do. Like I remember when I broke my ankle and I wasn't running really at all, and I was just like hobbling around and I was lifting weights. Like no, I didn't eat a lot of carbs. I didn't feel like I needed to. But carbs are the energy now fuel source, and if you want to build endurance and fuel for a big endurance effort, carbohydrates are your go-to. Now there is the outlier of if people want to go down the way crazy rabbit hole. There's a few ultra like people that are fat adaptive, and I have like read into this, and it's literally like you have to be like keto for an extended period of time doing crazy miles and like your body just will immediately go to being more fat adaptive, and they're running great efforts fast and everything on like low carb. Listen, there's outliers in everything. Like I'm giving you rules of thumb of things that have worked for me in the 99.9%. So carbohydrates, incorporate them, use them. They're not the enemy. They're going to make you feel good. And trust me, I like did this one summer, a couple, like maybe not even that long. I tried to go a couple weeks. I couldn't do it. I was running, doing like really low carb, and like it literally feels like somebody has a parachute like pulling you back after like a couple days when like you're kind of depleted of your glucose, which is your like what your carbs turn into. Like you go to run and it does feel like somebody's pulling you back. So, and I notice a huge difference when I do carb up. I feel like I want to go. And that's actually what I do for these races. I am actually not running much a couple days out, and I'm carb loading. I'm not saying I go and eat a bunch of McDonald's and birthday cake. I just am mindful of putting an extra scoop of rice, having an extra thing of oatmeal in the day. I will count calories at that point, but that's essentially all you're doing is incorporating more carbs and pulling back on fats and protein a little bit. But that's neither here nor there. That's fueling for a big race, and that's not the point. The point is carbs are good. They fuel your workout. Use them. That's how you're going to maximize each effort. So that's my recommendation there. Real quick, like recovery. When I've helped a few people just get into like running these races, half marathons. One buddy did a full marathon. I just recommend like when you're just watching TV at night, at least like after that long run day, say it's a Sunday night, you're watching TV, maybe you're sitting there with your old lady, just like get on the ground 10, 20 minutes of just some static stretching, meaning like you're staying still and just like sit on your butt, like go and like stretch your hamstring out, hold it for 30 seconds, do the other side, 30 seconds. When you're stretching out consistently, loosening up your body, you're going to actually run with a better gait, meaning you're just going to run more smooth. It's going to help prevent injury. Trust me, I've dealt with every single knee problem, shin splint problem, all these things. Stretching is a huge help. So try to do it a few days a week. If not, in the evenings after your Sunday or Saturday long run, really will help you. If you start getting to the point where like you're like, oh man, I've been running for a few weeks, I'm just hurting, like my body hurting, I'm immediately going to be saying, what are you doing for recovery? Are you stretching? If you want to get like a foam roller, or like even like the thing that like rolls out dough for pizza, like get that. Like even if you just have one of those in your kitchen, rolling your legs out just while you're watching TV. Like it doesn't take any sort of effort. It's going to help you get ready for the next day so you can maximize the next run, and so on and so forth. If you're constantly saying like how sore you are and tired and everything hurts, well, are you stretching out? Are you taking care of your muscles? All these things. That's just my recommendation there. And obviously, sleep is insanely important. I'm horrible at it, but if you can sleep more, do it. I don't know what else to say. I'm like everybody else, regular job. It's hard to try to get 8 hours, but it does make a difference in recovery. So try to get good sleep. I can't give much more information or give much more than that because I'm not an expert at it. I suck at it myself as well. Just too many things I want to do in a given day. Okay, real quick. I always get, I don't want to say always, just, a few people I've talked to, usually what comes up is shoes. So what brands I recommend or whatever. I wouldn't even think in terms of like brands when it comes to like what shoes to buy. I'll recommend a few brands that are like the most popular with the people that I run around with and like in my running clubs that I've gone to now. I think what's most important is getting a shoe that works for you. And I know that sounds like so cliche, like whatever works for you, but there's a lot of truth to that. And that's just truth to that in like any craft. Okay, so everybody's feet are completely different. Like some people have flat feet, some people have a high arch, some people put more weight on one foot than the other, some people put more weight on like the outside of their feet or their inside of their feet, and all these things. The biggest thing I recommend anybody doing, and if you're listening to this and you're not near like a major, even like somewhat close to like a major town or something, sorry, but if you can find a Fleet Feet or a running store, and I know it might sound weird if you never ran before and you go in there, but who cares? Like they're there to help you and they know what they're doing. And maybe I'm not talking about like Dick's Sporting Goods, the person working behind there. They might, but all I can tell you is the Fleet Feet stores, they have a thing where you walk on this mat and they can see how you're walking, the pressure points where a lot of your weight is, and they will give you options of shoes that fit your feet the best. I recommend this very seriously. And if you don't live near Fleet Feet, okay, you can go online and each brand should have their own like custom shoe finder. So pick a brand, any brand. Okay, so I will say I know people like their Brooks. I have Hoka's that I like, and I think Saucony is another really good brand. Like I've demoed their shoes at like my run clubs, like they fit really well. And of course Adidas and Nike. I don't think you can go wrong with like a lot of things. It's like buying a new bow. I mean, they're all pretty sweet, but getting the thing that's right for you is obviously always the most important thing. So they make shoes though, and every brand has different shoes that are made different ways. Some are catered more to flat feet, some for high arch, all these different things. Just spend the time looking into that a little bit before you drop $180 on a new pair of running shoes when you just haven't even started running yet. Because story about me, I ran with these old Nike shoes from high school for a while, and I always wondered why like I was in pain. Those shoes have lives to them. If you're just starting out, I wouldn't worry too long, but after you're putting hundreds of miles on a given shoe, then you can start then at that point they're getting toward the end of their life. Anyway, point is I bought these pair of Brooks, not talking bad on Brooks, people like them, but I bought a pair of Brooks that I didn't know anything about. They had a lot of support. And I remember saying like out loud, like, oh, I'll take a lot of, I need all the support I can get. Yeah. So I bought these shoes, but I didn't even realize, like, not really, like I didn't know, like, yeah, I have very flat feet. So these shoes were not made for me and my feet and my running style and whatever. Over just next few weeks, and I always have a bad habit of just like pushing through, especially when I know I should stop. So I'd get this pain in both my knees, and it was just nuts. And then eventually I actually got a huge cyst in the back of my right knee, and it's called a Baker cyst, I found out. And I remember it would like my knee would like lock up and like getting out of my truck and stuff, and it was like horrible. And I eventually then went to a Fleet Feet store, and they were like, dude, these shoes just aren't for you. There's nothing wrong with them, but they are not made for your feet. So for whatever reason, like those were good for like maybe more supportive for ankles, but they were putting more pressures on my knees. But I needed like the opposite basically. So I got a shoe that was more catered to a flat foot, and it happened to be the brand of Hoka. And I've stuck to a lot of those model shoes because as much as I like to tinker with things, especially like for archery and all the other hunting gear, when I find something that works, I have a really hard time like going away from it. But I pick up things every now and then. I was actually maybe looking about trying Saucony's, but I've had kind of the same style Hokas for trails and running and racing for the last like couple years, and crazy. That knee pain never came back. That Baker cyst just went away. Never had any issues after that. So it all just came down to shoes. That's my other point too. A lot of these little injuries like shin splints, knee pains, like plantar fasciitis, which is like the pain in the bottom of your feet, they can all be fixed. Please do not quit as soon as something gets hard. Yes, taking days off and like, of course, that's all part of it to fix the problem and work through it. But I remember thinking like, okay, this is where most people quit. Like I have pain in my, like, oh, I started running and I got pain in my knees. I guess I'm not a runner. No, that's not how it works. There's always ways to fix things, to strengthen up your legs, to fix your gait. Again, it could just be as simple as getting a different pair of running shoes. So don't fall into that. And the last thing I'll say on running shoes too is like, if you are clicking around online and you see things that say like race shoes or like whatever, and you're just starting out, just look for something that says like everyday trainers. That's the kind of shoes you want. And you can race in them. You can do whatever you want. Racing shoes are like super lightweight, super expensive, and like they have a short life to them. You want the everyday like trainers, especially starting out. I always have a pair of everyday trainers too. Those are the ones you just get the miles on. Those are like your beater truck tires that you just want to put miles on, and they last a long time. So that's what to look for as far as shoes. And then that's pretty much it. I just wanted to leave you with the last few things. Building endurance is a skill. It's nothing really natural. Yes, some people are born with a little bit better of talent and whatever, but that's literally anything. Like LeBron James was born 6'8". So yes, that's helpful for basketball. Some people are just born to like run around a little bit better than the other guy, but that doesn't mean that other people just can't be as good or maybe even better. Because that old expression that hard work beats talent, that's very true. These things are skills. They're not, natural traits. So I believe anybody can do it. I believe really anybody, if they really wanted it, they can train to run a marathon. And that's not me just saying that. I really believe it because I was the guy that never thought he could. And I've seen a lot of other people now go and do big races and they never thought they could. I think us as humans, we're built to move. We live completely static now, working in offices, 9 to 5, sitting around all day. And it's just, I don't know. I love running. I think this is what we're built to do a little bit. And it's just like anything. Building a house, starting a business. I mean, I can't say I've done like all these types of things, but you're going to suck in the beginning. You're going to fail. You got to keep coming back. Keep learning. Just stick with it. People usually quit things and they say they're no good, but they just weren't doing it long enough. It's like the plan wasn't that bad. Like we're going to put together a training plan. Like I said, if you're just starting out, 3 days a week, that's all you need. Maybe even twice a week. Just those 2 like easy runs, those short distances. If you want to go a little bit more than that, 3 days a week, and you do 2 easy runs and that long run. And then if like you have a goal of like a half marathon or a 10K certain time, implement those speed workouts once a week. Anyway, point is just keep learning. Just keep staying with it. You're going to learn so much more about running. It's not just about running. You're going to learn discipline. You're going to learn become more mentally tough because I want you to go run even if you're tired. That's what's going to build your self-esteem and your discipline. Those are all things that's going to help you, come hunting season, and just going to help you in life. And it's going to teach you patience. And I think it's just an awesome thing. I think there's a lot of different ways to train to hunt, so to speak. Because I know pretty much, this is a hunting-based platform, and everybody listening here, that's what we do. That is my number one, by the way, and will always be. But yeah, point is there's a bunch of different ways. There's a bunch of different ways to get ready for hunting season, to train to hunt. All these things are great. I don't talk bad on any of them, whether it's CrossFit, Mountain Tough, Elk Shape, like just lifting heavy or running. Like all these things are great. They're building community. They're promoting healthy lifestyles, whatever. I'm not even saying running is the best, but I'm telling you what I see is the best plan is the one you can stick to. So if you can keep coming back to running and you start to really enjoy it and it's something you keep coming back to, you're going to build your endurance, and that's the best plan. Because remember, a mediocre plan that's stuck to is always going to beat some perfect plan that has never followed through. And I think that is a great way to look at any sort of exercise or training plan. It just takes time. And you have to keep coming back. You have to stay disciplined. That's the only way you're going to progress. And just like lifting weights in the gym, it's a progressive overload. So we're going to have a systemic plan. And then just like on these long run days, as you approach maybe your half marathon race day, we're going to start to slowly increase that mile on that long run day. So it's just like when you're in the gym and you're trying to increase your bench press to 225 pounds. In 1 week, you do one set of 185 for 6. Well, the next week, I would recommend trying to get that for 7 reps. Or if you're sticking at 6 reps, try to put 195 on. You're going to hit muscle failure, but that's where you grow. And that's the point. So that's it. That's my how to build endurance. These are all very high level things. I will gladly answer anybody's question if they want to take a deeper dive. I will gladly put training plans together for people that, want to do a race or just want to get in a little bit better shape and maybe they want to leverage running. And again, running isn't, if you don't want to just run, then don't do that. You can do whatever you want. I don't care. I'm just saying my 2 cents on running. I love to lift weights too. So I do both. Obviously, I think it's great to hike around with a heavy backpack, especially if you're preparing for a Western hunt, do that. If CrossFit's your thing too, do that. If you want to supplement with running, do that. Just, you can take everything I said here today and piecemeal it together however you want it. Take a little bit from here, take a little bit from there. If you want to sign up for a race, take all the things I said, try them, stick with it, see what works for you. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. So I think that's all I have. So that's it, guys. That is the episode this week. Solocast, a little recap of the marathon and how to build endurance. So hope you guys liked it. Feel free to reach out anytime. Let's have a great rest of the week. Let's leave no doubt. Let's give it all we got, and let's run the rack. All right, everybody. Take care. See ya. Hey, if you liked that episode, please share it with a friend, share it on your story, and give the podcast a rating and a review on wherever you listen. For more of this type of content, you can head over to the YouTube channel and follow along on all the social platforms. Really appreciate it. See you on the mountain.